In a twist that no one could have predicted, the death of Queen Elizabeth II did not simply mark the end of an era, it ignited a firestorm of revelations, an internal strife that threatened to dismantle everything the monarchy had ever stood for. The private reading of her will, originally meant to serve as a dignified farewell and a blueprint for the future, instead became the catalyst for a bitter power struggle, a test of loyalty, and a brutal contest for control among the royal family's most influential members. At the heart of this turmoil was Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge and the future King of England. As he stood before the assembled family in the stately confines of Buckingham Palace, the weight of centuries of tradition and duty bore down on him. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and apprehension, for no one could have fathomed that the Queen's final wishes would unravel a tapestry of secrets and betrayals woven over generations. With trembling hands and a solemn expression, William began reading aloud the will, a document that promised to redefine the destiny of the monarchy. The first shock came with the fate of Balmoral Castle, one of the Queen's most treasured estates and a symbol of the family's deep-rooted connection to Scotland. In a move that defied every expectation, Queen Elizabeth had not bequeathed the property to the heir apparent, but rather diverted it to a lesser-known cousin, a decision that immediately sent ripples of disbelief through the room. For decades, Balmoral had represented continuity and the preservation of tradition. Now, its reassignment was interpreted by many as a deliberate signal. The old order was being upended in favor of a new, uncertain paradigm. As whispers of discontent filled the room, Prince Andrew's name surfaced in a way that was equally confounding. Known for his controversial past and the scandals that had dogged his every step, Andrew was unexpectedly assigned a prominent role within the Queen's intricate legacy. Some insiders speculated that the monarch had hoped to rehabilitate his tarnished image, while others believed this move was designed to distract from his missteps and consolidate the family's fractured public image. Whatever the motivation, the decision stoked long-standing resentments and fueled an already volatile environment. King Charles, whose long-awaited ascension to the throne had been heralded as a new chapter in the monarchy's storied history, sat in near silence. His expression betrayed a mix of grief, shock, and an unsettling hint of dread. The Queen's will contained veiled criticisms and subtle reassignments of power that called into question his suitability and readiness to lead. For decades, Charles had been portrayed as the inevitable successor, yet now it appeared that even his future was subject to revision, a painful blow to his carefully cultivated sense of destiny. Beside him, Camilla, the Queen consort, maintained a stoic facade. Yet even her calm exterior could not entirely hide the storm of conflicting emotions that swirled within her. The document implied restrictions on her influence that many believed were a direct rebuke of her controversial role in the royal saga. Not far from them, Princess Anne, ever the stalwart champion of duty and tradition, was visibly shaken by the revelations. Known for her pragmatic and no-nonsense approach to royal service, Anne had long been regarded as the guardian of the crown's storied legacy. However, the will's contents suggested that her position in the new order was being subtly diminished. What had once been considered her rightful place, as the matriarch of modern royal tradition, now appeared to be under threat. The painful irony was not lost on those who knew her well. The very person most committed to preserving the status quo was now confronted with the stark possibility that the rules she had spent her life upholding were destined to change. Yet, the most explosive portion of the will was reserved for the matter of succession and the redistribution of royal responsibilities. Queen Elizabeth's final document was not merely a list of bequests. It was a carefully constructed blueprint for a future that defied conventional wisdom. While Prince William had long been groomed as the uncontested heir, the will suggested that the path to the throne would be fraught with unexpected challenges. The document outlined a radical reshuffling of titles and duties, proposing that several key responsibilities traditionally reserved for the monarch be shared with select family members. This bold move was interpreted by many as an effort to prepare the next generation for the complexities of modern governance, yet it also served to undermine the singular authority that had long defined the institution. In the midst of this unfolding drama, the public was watching with bated breath. Journalists and royal watchers, ever on the prowl for a hint of scandal, began to piece together fragments of leaked information. Buckingham Palace, once the very symbol of unassailable stability and decorum, was suddenly transformed into a cauldron of intrigue and speculation. The monarchy, which had long relied on an image of unity and grace, now appeared divided and vulnerable, its inner workings exposed for all to see. As details of the will continued to emerge, tensions escalated further. Prince William's impassioned reading was seen by some as a noble act of transparency, an attempt to steer the family toward a future defined by honesty and reform. Yet for others, it was a reckless gambit, a provocation that risked fracturing the royal institution at a time when unity was needed more than ever. The emotional toll on the family was immense. Tears were shed, voices were raised, and the air was thick with the unspoken acknowledgement that this was more than a mere legal document. It was the final word of a monarch who had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and now sought to shape the future of her own bloodline. The fallout was swift and severe. King Charles, struggling to reconcile his own ambitions with the weight of his mother's final directive, was forced to confront the possibility that his reign might be defined by compromise rather than strength. Camilla's role, already a subject of intense public debate, came under renewed scrutiny as it became apparent that the Queen had intended to curtail her influence in favor of a more balanced distribution of power. Meanwhile, the prospects of reconciliation and unity, long touted by supporters of the traditional order, seemed increasingly remote as long-standing grievances and rivalries surfaced with renewed vigor. Amid this turmoil, a new generation of royals found themselves thrust into the spotlight. The will appeared to signal a shift from the old guard to a more modern, pragmatic approach, a transition that was as inevitable as it was contentious. Prince William, now caught between the legacy of his grandmother and the uncertain future that lay ahead, emerged as the reluctant hero of this unfolding drama. His every word, every gesture, was laden with the burden of history and the hope of forging a new path, a path that would honor the past while boldly embracing the challenges of the future. As the days turned into weeks, the reverberations of the will's revelations continued to shake the very foundations of the monarchy. Behind closed doors, secret meetings were held, alliances were forged and broken, and the intricate dance of power played out in hushed tones and furtive glances. The once unassailable institution now found itself at a crossroads, its future hanging precariously in the balance. Would the royal family be able to mend its fractured bonds and present a united front? Or was this the beginning of an irreversible descent into chaos? In the public arena, the fallout was equally dramatic. Critics and supporters alike debated the merits of the Queen's final wishes, with opinions split between those who hailed the document as a visionary roadmap for reform and those who decried it as a recipe for discord. The very notion of a royal family was being re-examined, its myths and traditions subjected to a harsh new light. In an era when transparency and accountability were demanded by the modern world, the ancient protocols of the monarchy were being challenged like never before. The Queen's will, with all its nuances and hidden implications, had become a symbol of transformation, a potent reminder that even the most time-honored institutions must evolve or risk being consigned to history. For King Charles and Camilla, the task was now to navigate this uncharted territory, balancing the demands of tradition with the imperatives of progress. For Prince William, the challenge was not only to secure his place as the future king, but also to redefine what it meant to lead a family that had long been the subject of myth and expectation. In the end, the reading of Queen Elizabeth II's will was far more than a ceremonial duty. It was a moment of reckoning, a turning point that exposed deep-seated vulnerabilities, and set in motion a struggle for the soul of the monarchy. The royal family now faced a future where every decision, every alliance, and every act of defiance would be scrutinized in the light of a legacy that spanned centuries. And as the echoes of that fateful reading continued to reverberate through the hallowed halls of Buckingham Palace, One thing remains clear. The path ahead is uncertain, fraught with peril, and marked by the indelible imprint of a queen whose final act may have forever altered the destiny of her people.